Monday, Jess TRIBERS. It's been a whole week, y'all. So, checking in with my peoples. I hope your week, you set your intentions, that you were brave, and that we did all this slaying of protecting our energy. I know I did. This week was kind of bumpy. It was definitely rocky. Like I shared last week when I went live on Sunday. For those that tuned in, shout out to all my Jess TRIBERS that's you know taking this journey with me. But anyway, my aunt passed away, so I did take part of this week to pay respects to her, and it's crazy how you hear this story over and over and over again. How it's unfortunate that death is like kind of the only time I feel like a lot of people will see distant family members or people that live in different states. But it honestly was a very, very beautiful meetup. I actually met a cousin that I never met that was the same age as me, and we clicked so beautifully. So I'm definitely feeling great. I'm feeling inspired. So I wanted to talk to y'all about the topic of the week. The topic of this week's video is healing. How are we healing from past trauma, negative experiences, those dark nights of the soul? If you into all of that, if you know, you know. But how are we cleansing ourselves? How are we healing from situations that, in most cases, that you have to heal from, you really can't change? So that's what I want to talk about in today's, little mini episode, talking about negative habits, codependencies on people, and temporary feelings and circumstances. How do we grow from these kind of situations? Anyhow, how are we growing from these situations that challenge us to think about things critically? I mean, honestly and critically. And it requires a great amount of strength and a great amount of grounding. And what I mean by grounding is the ability to compartmentalize your emotions from the reality of what the circumstances really entail. I touched on it last week, and I might have said it a few other times, but we do idolize or fall into these illusions of things once we have fallen for the potential of a situation, a person, or circumstance. And sometimes I feel like we remain in that far longer than we need to. I mean, sincerely and truly, far longer than what we need to. I definitely feel like healing gets you to that proportion or to that area, or that proportion. I like that. I'm going to start saying that. But proportion where you're able to honestly adapt through those situations and compartmentalize those feelings for your better good, for your, not your protection where you're blocking and burying things that are relevant to you, but you're meeting it in a place where you're allowing yourself to honor your feelings. And if the space is created for an exchange to happen with that person, like, hey, I feel uncomfortable with this, and if they're open to receive it, then great. But if they're not, that's also great. You feel what I'm saying? This is what I mean by the healing work. And it's hard. This is something very new to me. So I'm not talking to this camera right now like I got years of experience of being kumbaya. This is a brand new journey that I'm trying, Jess TRIBERS. And I'm kicking it with y'all, trying to talk to y'all to figure out what y'all feel about this. How has the pandemic and the circumstances of having an entire year with a little bit of what you can control, because there are laws of this land, being out of whack and having to deal with those things? What about people that went through like breakups and stuff during this pandemic? People that have dealt with deaths, people that have dealt with just a loss. How are we healing through these traumas? I want to talk about honestly being able to pick yourself back up after a tragedy. I mean, a tragedy for your world. It may not be for everybody. It may be people that may not even feel where you're coming from because they've never experienced it. But understand that those that have had that ache of the heart, that ache of the soul, yes, this is something that I feel as the Jess Tribe Collective that we need to be confronting ourselves and holding ourselves accountable for at least, I would say, twice a month, depending on how heavy the situation is. If you want to go, you want to go gun-ho every day. But for some people to think about things that they can't ultimately control and to be going over it and over it again, that is like mentally draining. I know sometimes for me, when it's things, because I'm an initiator, I'm chilling, I'm cool, and I'm relaxed. But if I can be, I like to drive the car. I like to be steering the boat. And not that I want to boss people around to do that. But you understand what I mean when I'm thinking about things that I cannot find in an immediate or some type of stride to a solution. It may not be a positive pondering. It may turn into, a spiral. You know how that go. Y'all know how that go. So how are we healing? How are we bringing and centering and grounding ourselves when these emotions rise up within us? When we're faced with situations that's kind of like, these half respected or half truth situations. Now, what kind of person I'm talking about dealing with those kind of things. Them narcissists, them toxic people. Y'all know who I'm talking about. How are we healing ourselves to the point where that kind of energy or that kind of interaction, if we so choose, because we can't avoid people, especially people that are in our family that may, exhibit these traits within whatever circumstances we're currently in. How are we going to be able to protect ourselves or get our minds in this healing and grounding place where it won't even penetrate? It's like, okay, I'm irked by it, a little irked, a little smidgy, but I'm not affected by it anymore. I'm not allowing it to live in space within my heart or even in my mind. And we often say a lot of times, oh, fuck that shit, I ain't thinking about that, blah, 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 blah. But we're really not. We're numbing these situations, when it's all said and done, and when it's that awkward silence. Awkward science. Why I be doing this sometimes with these videos? That awkward silence, y'all, and you're saying to your friend, well, I can't believe she did. You revisited situations that you claim you didn't care about. You know what I'm saying? Something where it's not even worth a conversation, y'all. That's the type of healing work I'm trying to get into. I don't know if y'all know what that feels like, but it's so liberating. And not that you don't care about these situations and about these people or about these circumstances. It doesn't even always have to be a person. You know what I mean? It could be the way certain things are ran, a hierarchy, your job. It could be the way certain things are within the world that you are currently inhabiting. We all have our small worlds within this one major world. We connect and we become friends with people because our stories align. So I digress. But I say all of that to say, what work are we doing through healing? Healing ourselves, healing our minds, healing our energies when these trying situations come up on a continuous basis, even out of nowhere, from people we don't expect, from things we don't expect. It's second way from the setting your intentions high. But for me, I'm just going to share this a little bit because I'm going a little over from what I wanted to go over. A question that I like to ask. And when this question comes up, I know it's some healing work in the works, y'all. When I'm presented with something, a circumstance, or when I'm presented with something that is uncomfortable for me, it irks me. Might even make me a little mad for a second. I have been asking myself, and if it's someone that's close enough to me that I may be able to feel like I can get a straight answer, because sometimes you're not going to get that, so you're wasting energy. But I will ask, how do you expect me to operate in this energy? Ask yourselves that. When you are doing your healing work, I think that helps ground me. That gets me back to the point of it all. How do you expect me to operate in this energy? How do I expect me to operate in this energy? Which is the even better question. Some of these things, it's like, hey, I have to take the situation for what it is. When it comes to me and towards me in my space, I'm going to deal with it accordingly. I'm going to be cordial, professional when it comes to work. I'm going to be cordial and personable and still kind-hearted, but understand my boundaries when it comes to personal relationships, personal interactions.